Good day, listeners. Welcome to Radio Udon. This is Babu Janakarajan, your host for the Great Indian Monologue series. Monologue means a long speech by one person, the classic textbook definition. But heck of an interesting speech every single time on so many different topics you can imagine. In a series of talks, I will share my thoughts on subjects like civic sense, current happenings, commerce, technology, business, science, health, living, and so on and on and on and on. Though the title is The Great Indian Monologue, I would be glad to receive your views by means of comments for each episode. I'm sure you would have truckloads of comments because I'm sure you would have your aha moment whenever you listen to any of these talks. This guy is exactly telling what I felt, or he is talking about things which I imagine in my mind in the exact way. I'm sure you'll be able to connect with this. So I expect your views and comments for each episode and share some of the best ones at the beginning of the next episode so that this monologue evolves into a dialogue and a discussion, a healthy one at that. Stay tuned, you're listening to Radio Udon.
Radio Udon, first light of life.
Stand-up comedy is the most popular show which is doing its rounds everywhere, not only just in India but all over the world. In the last, say, 5 years, with the advent of social media and faster networks, a lot of talk shows, the stand-up comedy shows have become extremely popular, and we have our own superstars of this show in India and also on a global scale. I have listened to my load of stand-up comedy programs, and most of the time I used to wonder why the stand-up talk has to be only about lighter moments, only about comedy, and why not about serious issues and subjects. Because a typical stand-up comedy show, it would be a highlighted setting where a person would be standing in the limelight in front of a mic, and it would be entertaining some select audience over a period of 40 minutes, 1 hour, or even a couple of hours, giving them non-stop laugh-worthy moments. Mindful or mindless, it doesn't matter. But for a country with 1.4 billion people, why there are so many stand-up comedians and there are no stand-up serious speakers? So, let's get into the show. I have titled the very first program in this series as This Stand-Up Act is a Tragedy. Hey, come on. Stand-up act? What stand-up act you mean, and why is it tragedy? Yes, I will explain it in the next few minutes about one of the biggest stand-up acts most of us do and why it is a tragedy. Life in India is in fast lanes these days, right? Nobody denies that. Business is getting done at the speed of thought thanks to ultra-fast mega data digital networks. Even in a small village which lacks basic amenities, you have 4GB network. And very soon the 5GB rollout is underway, and very soon we will all be happily using 5G networks even in a remote village of India, right? And world cuisine is just a phone call away. You just call up and they deliver it in the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and even some of them boast they deliver ahead of time. Technology, Then medicines and entertainment delivered 24/7 at our doorsteps. We don't have to move. We just make a call and they will be delivered, and you don't even have to step out to pay. You pay through your digital wallet. And for the unfortunate ones who still have to draw some cash, ATMs are dotting our neighborhood. The number of ATMs are going up, although the cash which is stacked on the ATMs are not so. Then comes the malls and multiplexes entertaining us like never before with so much to offer. You just walk in and you actually forget outer world for the entire duration you spend in a mall. You watch a movie, you make some shopping, you have your food, hearty food, you fill your tummy as much as you can. and you step out happy to hit the road, the gleaming highways in fast cars and faster bikes, right? Yoga has gone mainstream. Swachh Bharat has driven opentification out of our society. We're all gloating in the luminescence of a digital nation that is scorching the tracks of global consumption like never seen before. In fact, ours is one of the fastest growing economies in the last 15 to 20 years. This is the 21st century India none of us would have imagined. None of us would have imagined quarter of a century ago. Quarter of a century is not much, hardly 25 years, and in this short span, for all the advancement we have made that helped us to leapfrog into a glorious future, we are still a root-loving nation. We have not forgotten our roots, our traditions, our values. Children, kids, girls and women still continue practicing a classic yoga technique that is so secretive in nature, it is not even written down in any form till date. Men too practice a different but equally secretive, unwritten yoga technique that is also not known to the larger world. Am I digressing? Am I? Sorry, where was I? Yeah, Dawn of the Digital India. Thank you for reminding. But I have a pressing problem. I have a pressing problem. Men and women, the moment we step out from the comforts of our homes, dread this singular problem every single day we venture out, even if it is only for a few hours. Imagine that you are walking into a busy street at the middle of the day in a metro or a non-metro or even a small town, or you're driving by, or you're riding your bike, or you're on a public transport. It doesn't matter. You're on the public space and you want to pee. So what do? What is available out there and how it impacts us, and what do we do to tune ourselves to accept the reality? We tend not to drink much water or juice or beverage, anything that will fill our bladder before the work we ventured out gets completed. However thirsty we become in the sweltering heat out there, right? For the 1.4 billion people that occupy this great, grand landmass, we cannot hide anywhere to pee. As simple as that. How men handle this problem? Have you ever thought about? For the uninitiated one, I have done a rule book for pissing while traveling, exclusively for men. Rule number 1, you develop a thick skin. This shall come handy when they are in the act. Rule number 2, make elaborate plans based on who are traveling with them. Where to pull off, how many fuel stations or hotels are on the way that has clean toilets. By the way, none of them probably have. And if the travelers are able to offload, where to break for coffee afterwards, etc. It's a long planning nightmare. Rule number 3, scout for a secluded stretch of road away from settlements and shops, but safe enough at the same time. Things happen in bad places, in many places, right? Rule number 4, let go all the creepy and crawling mammoth vehicles they overtook to ensure a clear road view and a better drive all along. Oh my, we are gonna tail them for the rest of the journey if we pull out here, sigh, but we can't help it, right? Rule number 5, do the act and stand cover for rest of them to do the same, and escort them to the vehicle as quickly and as humanly as possible. The thick skin that was mentioned in rule number 1 comes handy when there is a sudden burst of traffic on the very road whose curbs our man is wetting. Pants down, one cannot do much except clinging on to the act and hiding under the thick skin. Right? You cannot literally hide anywhere. Even the trees have disappeared from our road, so you cannot even run around and hide behind a tree or a bush anymore. Pathetic, right? And if the rule book for men is so pathetic, imagine the rule book for the cursed ones, the women of our great nation, the women we adorn, the women we adulate, the women we hail as mothers and sisters and whatnot. The rule book goes like this. Rule number 1, don't eat at all, don't drink anything before starting any walk in the public space. Rule number 2, visit the loo at home for a couple of times just before starting, just to absolutely unload whatever residue was there in your bladder before starting. Rule number 3, don't eat or drink anything while traveling. However hungry you are, however thirsty you are, however long your journey is, however time you spend in the open space. Rule number 4, warn the ones behind the wheels if you are driven by them in advance if the point beyond which you cannot hold your bladder is fast approaching, and pray for a fuel station or eatery or some space with a clean loo to appear magically within the next minutes. So when nothing works, we pray, right? So we keep praying for such a miracle to happen. Rule number 5, if there is none and if the moment has truly arrived, forget human dignity and pee behind any bush or tree wishing for a cloak of invisibility. But unfortunately, the disappearance of the trees or bush is harsher on women because they absolutely hate doing it in public, right? Not like men who have developed thick skin by doing this or practicing this for the past many years. So what went wrong? What really went wrong? Why are our gleaming highways and simple towns and city public spaces not equipped with adequate clean toilets? Why not? Why even now not? Why on Mother Earth we are not able to keep even those sparsely available ones clean? What fails us big time and again and again? Have you ever seen women in crowded places like bus stations and train stations standing up and peeing just because that is the most dignified way they can, and still none of us care? Go on, if you don't believe my words, visit such a place nearest to you today. Don't forget to roll down your window if you're traveling in a car, or remove your helmet if you're riding a bike, and take a look if you can stand it. It's very hard to digest, but that's the reality, my friends. I sincerely pray for the day when these and similar fundamental necessities of life become part of our demands for electing new governance or pulling down the ones in power if they fail the promise. Unfortunately, for a nation, that is hard pressed for our needs, most of us sell our votes for a few $100 or for a few $1,000, and then we lose our right to demand any change, even in the fundamental necessities that we crave for, right? So what can we do then? Interim, we can attempt to collect data on public toilets, that is if you're really serious minded to fix the problem. You can attempt to collect data on public toilets ward-wise and highways everywhere in the country. Maintenance expense data, that is how much money has been spent for the upkeep and maintenance of these toilets. Info regarding many other, whether any public feedback on the state of affairs was collected or not. That is, if you walk into a loo in your place, if you're fortunate to find one, and if you hate the ambience, if it is reeking with smelly stuff and unhygienic, are you able to give some kind of a feedback to anybody? Like, it has to be attended by somebody, or at least a form to fill as a feedback, or whatever it is. Is that available? Was it collected? And all this information can be pulled out through Right to Information Act or using whatever channels we have access to. Interim, we can also insist on petrol bunks having such facilities that can be used on a charge basis, but it must have the facilities for a decent crowd for a force multiplier nation like ours. Force multiplier nation, we love multiplying, right? We thrive multiplying. So for a big crowd like ours, a charging basis would really help to keep the facilities clean. And interim, we can work out many workable solutions if we have the intent to solve this shame. Whether we get this data and put them to good use or not, it really doesn't matter. Alarm bells shall ring out loud where it ought to be, and the responsible machinery shall grunt to action by the very act of our intent to collect such data and making it available to public. So what are we really waiting for? I want to find my toilet. Where is my toilet? Has it been stolen by somebody? Was it ever there? So, parting note, I offer my vision or the view of what may happen and how this problem may be tackled by some parts of the society. Some companies may soon start selling tablets that will help us hold back indefinitely with an apt title, Never Pee Again. Some other companies may position MBA graduates in street corners to peddle out adult diapers, akin to the way they sell toys and other stuff in street corners everywhere in our great nation. And so many other innovative ways as band-aid solutions. It's a small world after all, right? So listeners, next time, when you step out in public space, you just remember the essence of this talk show, what facilities are available in your locality, how comfortable you feel when you step out with your bladder full, and what kind of steps you take or make sure that you don't run up the unfortunate situation of having to hunt for a loo when your bladder is full or when your intestines are about to burst, where you have to find a loo in the next minute, right? And then share your views through comments to this program. I would be really glad to read through all of them and pick out some of the best with possible solutions or how to handle it. Maybe a short-term solution and a long-term solution, but real good solution from the grassroots level. And I would sure share them at the beginning of each succeeding episode, so that this evolves into something meaningful and tangible. Thanks for listening. This is Radio Udaan and I'm your host, Vijay Janakarajan. I'll talk to you again in a very short span of time. Until then, stay blessed.